I recently got an S13 coupe in the shop, and I sort of wanted to film the process and maybe start getting back into YouTube again. And I think this will be a really fun project that you guys might be interested in. So I'm gonna walk you guys around this car, show you guys what's up with it, what I found so far, and tell you what the plans are for it. You guys are looking at it. It's a white S13 coupe. We've got a blacktop SR20 in here, nice S13 motor. And this is a 93 SE, which means we've got the sunroof. And we've also got the heads-up display and the digital dash. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. The basic rundown of this thing is that it's a friend's car. I'm gonna be getting it right for him. That's a little bit of a side project. This car is not gonna be a full restoration, but I am gonna be getting it running, driving. I'm gonna be sorting out a few things in particular, such as the battery tray rust. Also gonna be patching all this up, getting it right for him, because really there's some surface rust on the car, but this is really the only spot with rot. So we sort that out, and this is a really solid chassis that has a lot of potential. This is everything I found inside the car. So some of these interior pieces we'll be using. I'm actually gonna be using this exhaust. It needs a few small repairs, but it should be good to go. Get some fresh gaskets for that. We got a new intercooler kit. So a lot of these random intercooler pipes we're really not gonna be using. Like I said, these interior pieces. One cool, interesting thing I did find is this Sylvia digital climate control. Pretty rare part, pretty cool to see. I haven't been able to find the harness, but yeah, that's a neat one. You don't see those much anymore. A few more things down here, some headlights, some AC parts we may try to use, old intercooler, but we got some fresh parts for it, and we got some more stuff on the way. So we're gonna be doing this car right. Like I said, it's not gonna be a full restoration, but we're gonna be putting some good parts on it and getting it mechanically sound. So yeah, we got the Greddy box, of course, and we got a full Greddy intercooler kit for it. I'm not gonna pull it all out right now. We've got some other stuff that's gonna be going on. Some more parts down here. Anyways, I started looking into this motor today. Just seeing how healthy it is. You know, I'm gonna be firing this thing up, and like I said, this car's been sitting for a long time, so it's best to be as careful as possible when dealing with this stuff. Went ahead and pulled the valve cover, pulled the spark plugs. The valve train looks excellent. The pistons have no carbon on them. The spark plugs look brand new. You know, it almost looks like this was a fresh build. It's hard to say for sure. But yeah, I'm really excited. So far, this thing looks healthy. I still need to do a compression test. I'm really excited to fire this thing up for the first time and hear it run. I think this is gonna be a really good motor. So, it's got a coil rad in it. Unfortunately, it's been patched up several times, so I don't know if you can see those patches in there. Yeah, that's no good. So we'll be pulling the coil rad out, dropping a fresh one in, maybe a Mishi, maybe another coil rad. This is a Wiring Specialties harness. It's one of the really early ones, but it should work excellent. Let's go ahead and get underneath this car, take a look, and see what we can find on the bottom. Here's a little more surface rust, but like I said, all in all, this chassis is turning out to look really clean. All right, so here we are underneath the car. We've got a pretty gnarly buildup of grease here. Of course, that's not gonna be an issue. I'll degrease that later on when the time comes. But again, looking for rot, looking for rust, looking for any big issues. And again, this car looks pretty darn good. These S13s are getting really old, so it's nice to see that this thing isn't rotted out. Got beat up a little bit right here, no big deal. Frame rail looks amazing. These frame rails often get crushed right here because people try to lift them. And for those of you who don't know, the metal is a lot thinner here than further up on the frame rail. So the S13s actually have some really good lift points right here. Wish the 14 had them. Same thing over here. A little bit of a push in right here, but again, I've seen far worse. Pinch welds are always a little jacked up. Again, not as bad as it could be. The thing we're really grateful for is that there is no rot. So even back here where there's often quite a bit, it seems to be rust free, which is really impressive for an S13. As you'll notice, there's no gas tank in this car. So the original gas tank was really rotted out. The owner was actually able to find one in good condition, which is very surprising. It's so hard to find these things rust free. This will work. Yeah, look in there. A little bit of debris that I need to clean out, no big deal. So really nice tank. So he lucked out on that one. You won't find those too often. A lot of oil back here. It needs a rear main seal. So this trans will be getting popped out fairly soon. Be inspecting the clutch, replacing the rear main, checking out the flywheel, and anything else that I can see, throwout bearing and whatever else I can find in there. So yeah, so the previous motor looked like it was pretty leaky because of all this buildup. So we'll need to degrease this thing at some point, get it really cleaned up. Got a nice fresh ISR turbo elbow. That's a good sign. Silicone oil drain with the heat shield. Very important. Very nice. Yeah, all in all, I'm excited to wrench on this thing. So the first thing I decided to tackle is the fuel tank. Got it up on this trans jack, went ahead and treated some of the surface rust up top. Got some fresh fuel lines in since these are kind of impossible to reach. When the tank's in, decided to put this fill neck in. It looks a little bad on the outside, but it's actually really clean on the inside when compared to this one, which actually looks good on the outside, but it's completely totaled on the inside. Anyways, I'm getting ready to slide this thing in. Then we'll be throwing in the fuel pump. I was looking at the wires here and it looks like somebody actually bolted in this top hat with the wires pinched in place. So no big deal. I have to desolder these points here, solder in the new harness. And we'll be putting in this Aeromotive, I think it's a 250 or a 255. Pretty basic, just to get us started. We may be upgrading all this later on if we decide to go E85, which I always recommend, but yep. So that's what I'm starting on. I'm gonna get the fuel system sorted out. Once the fuel system looks good, I will probably tackle wiring and see if we can get this thing fired up. The gas tank is officially in. Got the straps bolted up. The new fuel lines poking out right there. Getting ready to drop the fuel pump assembly in. Got the new fuel pump on. Put a nice big zip tie in the bottom. Zip tied the wiring up out of the way so it doesn't get pinched again. And went ahead and soldered in the new harness. Pretty easy stuff. We've got a fresh O-ring here for the tank. So we're gonna go ahead and throw this pump in, and then I'm gonna move up front and get the fuel lines sorted at the front of the car. So the fuel lines are all made up and ready to go. But before I install the fuel lines and get started on the wiring, I wanted to go ahead and take a look at the coolant hoses. So these coolant hoses underneath these intake manifold can often leak, and it's really hard to get to when you're on the side of the road. I like to replace them with silicone hoses. And surprisingly enough, it looks like someone already replaced most of these with silicone, which is really cool to see. But one thing they didn't do is replace these smaller hoses with silicone, and this one's kinked pretty badly. You can see it's already cracking, so that's a leak for sure. I also don't like to use this style clamp on these smaller hoses, as it can kind of eat into it. You can see that one back there is already starting to do that. So what we're gonna do is order some silicone hose in that smaller diameter, get some like fuel hose style clamps, and make sure this thing doesn't have any coolant leaks going down the road. The intake manifold's out, and I went ahead and took out all the rubber hoses that are gonna end up getting replaced with silicone. Since I can't really reinstall the wiring until the manifold is back together, I had a few different options of what I could do. I could do the rear main seal, but I don't have the seal yet, so I'd really only be able to pull the transmission out. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this corner here. Now I don't have any metal, but it's a good idea for me to go ahead and clear this rust out, see how bad it is, see how much material I need, and go ahead and get started on this. So yeah, I'm gonna start off by vacuuming this rust out of the way, and let's see what we're working with here. Fast forward a bit, I got the edges cleaned up, got this thing prepped and ready to weld up, got both surfaces clean, top and bottom. Went ahead and made a template, transferred that over to steel. I think I got the curvature of this just right. So yeah, pulled the old Hobart out. Let's go ahead and weld this patch in. All right, after getting the patch in, I went ahead and smoothed it out a bit, grinded down the welds, got some body filler in there, some primer, some paint. So that corner's pretty much ready to go. Next thing I want to do is get the intake manifold back on. I got some silicone hose to replace that old cracked rubber hose for the coolant. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get this intake manifold back together and move on to getting the front mount intercooler installed. So yeah, let's go ahead and knock this out. Intake manifold is bolted back on. It's kind of hard to show you guys, but I ended up routing those hoses in a much better way where they're less kinked. Same thing for the idle air control coolant hoses. I also straightened up this loop a little bit better. It's, you know, it's a lot less gnarly than it was. Apparently his heater core has a leak, so that's why we're looping that. Anyways, I went ahead and also resealed the injectors, all new O-rings, cushions. We've got new seats, and we've got some fresh spacers as well, since those were missing. So intake manifold is almost fully assembled. At this point, I can go ahead and start mocking up the intercooler though. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that done. I needed this intake manifold in place so that I can get the intercooler piping sort of lined up, get the front mount installed, and start figuring out exactly where my hole is gonna land for the pass-through. So yeah, that's the next step. I think I'm gonna go ahead and get this front mount in place, start figuring out what kind of brackets I'm gonna do for it. I'm gonna have to pull this crash bar off. Usually you have to trim these to fit, so we'll see. I'm just gonna start fitting stuff up and seeing what needs to happen. The Greddy intercooler is mounted up, and I gotta say the quality of these kits never ceases to amaze me. Greddy makes some of the best intercooler kits. And it's got a lot to do with the quality of the core, of course, but also the mounting solutions. Like on a lot of cheaper kits, you just can't really, like, they just don't come with the proper mounting hardware and tabs, and it's never really in there that great. I already have cardboard taped on the back. I'm gonna go ahead and tape some cardboard on the front, but before I did that, I just wanted to show you guys. I always do that just to keep the fins intact until it's time to actually finish the car. And also, Greddy had a nice little solution for these horns. They actually, in the instructions, recommended to relocate them to the hood latch bracket here. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, this thing is really solid. What you love to see. I hate floppy intercoolers. They always just, the tabs will break over time. They sag, they rub. It's no good. So yeah, this kit's coming together really good. I'm gonna go ahead and start mocking up the cold side so I can figure out where to drill the hole. All right, moving right along on this intercooler kit. I went ahead and trimmed out the bumper support, made some room for the cooler. Drilled out the hole for the cold pipe here, put some trim on there, and unfortunately, it's not really lining up. So at first I was really stoked with this Greddy kit, but the more I work with it, the more I'm kind of losing faith in it, honestly. For one, they gave us a bunch of worm gear clamps and not T-bolt clamps, which is not what I would have expected from Greddy, honestly. And the quality of these welds really leaves a lot to be desired. So, not to mention the fitment issue we're currently running into down here. And you know, I made sure everything was aligned. Drilling this hole differently wouldn't have really made a difference. That was sort of the best placement I could have done. You know, like any differently, and this coupler would have been like really like angled, nasty, in like a really unfortunate way. But this hole really has the best placement and makes it look best up top. So fortunately I can weld aluminum. What I'm planning on doing here is taking this piece and sort of extending it to sit right around here. So I'm going to be adding some pipe to both sides of this, essentially. So yeah, we're going to do a little bit of TIG welding to get this right. Another thing about this kit that I wasn't too stoked on is it didn't come with a hot pipe, which is really strange. I guess on the Sylvias you would have got it from factory, so it was you're intended to use the factory one, but it's all right. We got one ordered, and we're gonna work through this. I'm not gonna sacrifice fitment. It's got to be perfect. Those are just my expectations. So yeah, let's go ahead and do some TIG welding and get this thing right. So funny enough, he actually had an extra one of these Greddy pieces, the same thing that was in the kit. Of course, you can see that the newer stuff is polished and it doesn't have the Greddy logo, unfortunately. It seems like quality may have changed over the years with Greddy. Maybe it's complacency. Maybe they gotta save money. Who knows? But what I'm gonna end up doing here, since it's essentially the same material, the same thickness, and they're both cast, it's gonna be easiest for me to weld pieces from this to add on to it. So I'm gonna be cutting off both ends and adding it onto the new piece. So I went ahead and TIG'd up that piece. As you can see, it fits much better. I'm starting to get a lot more comfortable with the TIG welder. So obviously these welds still aren't like absolutely perfect, but I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I've just recently started learning how to TIG weld aluminum, so I'm stoked to finally do a piece that is actually going to be put into use. So that's pretty good news. I also went ahead and tightened up the wiring a little bit here. Found the bracket for the fuse box, got that all mounted up. I need to sort out a grounding point because the general grounding point before was on the battery tray, so I'm probably gonna put something into the frame rail right here, maybe get a riv nut gun. Get some threads down there. I removed some unneeded electronics, cleaned up the bay a little bit, and we're moving right along on this thing. We ordered the hot pipe for it, so that'll be here soon. But this intercooler is nearly finished, so it's good stuff. Oh yeah, I also installed this Faction Motorsports bracket for the throttle cable. I actually really like this piece. I might get this for my car, honestly. So that made the job a little bit easier. Usually you got to make a bracket, but I really like how that thing turned out. Okay, so we've made a lot of progress on the car. Covered a lot of ground. So I think this is probably a good place to end it. You know, we're nowhere near finished with this thing. So definitely I'm going to be continuing to film, continuing to upload, keep you guys updated on this. And yeah, so definitely subscribe so you can be ready for the next one when it comes out. And leave a like, say something in the comments. Let me know if you have any questions, any ideas, anything at all. Let me know. So yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching. At this point, if you're still watching, you're probably a long-term subscriber. So I thought I might want to give a little context on what has been happening. I haven't uploaded in a really long time. I wasn't really like giving up on YouTube. It's just that the build series, making these videos is really expensive. And I was really running low on funds. I was uploading consistently for a long time, putting in a lot of work on the S14. And, I just didn't have the money to continue to produce what I felt like was quality content. So for a while there, I sort of put YouTube on hold, and I started just putting in work, basically, just like doing side work, wrenching on cars, building stuff for other people, getting my money up, basically. And as you guys can see, a lot has changed since the last video. We've got a lift in the shop, we've got welders, we've got a lot more equipment, a lot more tools, and the shop is really a lot more set up. And I'm at the point now where I have enough business, where I'm making a decent income, and I feel like I can finally start providing you guys with that content again. So yeah, that's sort of like a general rundown of where I've been, what happened. I'm never gonna give up on YouTube. It's been a dream of mine for many years to have a successful YouTube channel. So I'm just gonna keep on putting in the work till hopefully one day it happens. So, and only you guys can make that happen. So definitely engage with the content, as usual, like, comment, subscribe. It helps me tremendously. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.